I am really tired of this notion that adult content somehow is evil and bad and causes people to be unsatisfied and depressed and miserable. And here we go. Here's one of the studies that's cited for this stuff. It's actually a meta-analysis, so it's not doing any sort of work on its own. It's looking at a bunch of other studies' data to try and pull new information out of it. Now, I went through this whole thing. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. But I dug through it, and what I find interesting is that in the conclusion, blah, 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 basically says no effect. But then, at the bottom of it, it says, the convergence of results across blah, 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 points to an overall negative effect of adult content on men's sexual and relational satisfaction. Now, here's the problem. I went through this thing. Yeah, you see where I've got males highlighted there? There's a reason for that, because I looked through it, and they're basing that on associations between. Now, here's the problem with a lot of scientific studies. They don't perform experiments where they control things, therefore they can't prove causation. All this is saying, it is not saying that adult content causes men to have issues. It's saying that there is an association between the two things, which means that they happen at the same time in some cases, according to the data. Now, why is that? One explanation, the explanation that for some reason the conclusion is trying to push, points to an overall negative effect of adult content on men. But that's not true. This is not something that they can say with this type of study. They cannot make any claims about there being an overall negative effect on men, because this kind of study does not allow proof of causation. It is just as possible, and in fact, I would argue very likely, that the real problem with men and adult content use would be more that their use of it coincides with other things that are making them miserable. So, of course, miserable, lonely men are going to use more adult content. Therefore, miserable, lonely men, no matter what you try to pull out of all this data that you've yanked, are really just lonely and therefore using more of the stuff. But you're flipping the entire thing on its head and saying, well, these guys are miserable because they're using the stuff, not because other factors are making them miserable, therefore they go on to use the stuff. And the truth is, it can't say either way. But the fact, and this is what's insulting to my intelligence and the intelligence of everybody else that's told this crap, they can't say that the causation points in a direction. But they do. But they are probably not correct. That's more just based on other things I've read. But this is just one study, and it's a meta-analysis, so they didn't even do any actual experiments. They can't prove anything other than that they go together. And let's be honest, lonely dudes tugging on sausages is more likely based on them not having a relationship or having luck in relationships or feeling lonely or miserable. Really? Wow, nobody could have guessed that, huh? Oh, wow.